Okay, so have you ever stopped and wondered what makes special education truly effective? I mean, really work. It's definitely not about some one-size-fits-all magic bullet. Today, we're going to dive into a really powerful framework called applied behavior analysis. But, and this is the important part, we're going to see it through the eyes of three very different students. Let's get into it.
So that brings us to the big question, right? What does good special education actually look like? Is it some fancy new curriculum? The latest tech gadget? The truth is, it's about something way more fundamental. It all comes down to the real, measurable progress of each and every student.
So first, let's meet Marcus. He's 9 years old, loves puzzles, and has this laugh that's just completely contagious. He also has severe nonverbal autism. And his story, wow, his journey is an incredible look at what can happen when a totally dedicated team comes together and builds a really intensive, coordinated program just for him.
And then there's Aaliyah. She's 11, and she is an amazing artist. But here's the thing. Lately, her progress hasn't just flatlined. In some areas, she's actually started losing skills that she used to have. Her story is a pretty tough reminder of what happens when a program just isn't hitting the mark.
And finally, there's Ethan. He's 14, a total whiz at math and science. But you know those unwritten rules of middle school social life? To him, they're a complete mystery. His needs are so different from Marcus's and Aaliyah's, but as you're about to see, the very same framework can help him too.
So what's the common thread here? What connects Marcus, Aaliyah, and Ethan? It's a scientific framework called applied behavior analysis. You've probably heard it called ABA for short. Now, it's really important to get this right. ABA isn't just one single therapy. It's a whole scientific field, It's all about understanding and improving human behavior. Think of it as a way to build skills that matter in the real world, like being able to ask for what you need or knowing how to start a conversation with a friend. And this isn't just some nice idea, it's a proven, evidence-based practice, especially for students with autism.
So how does ABA actually work? Well, it all boils down to this simple but super powerful idea, the ABC model. Let's imagine a kid starts crying, okay? The A is the antecedent. What happened right before the crying? Maybe another kid grabbed their toy. The B is the behavior itself, the crying. And the C is the consequence, what happened right after. Maybe a teacher came over and offered a different toy. See? By looking at these ABCs, we can start to figure out why a behavior is happening, and then we can figure out how to help.
So if ABA is a science, you can kind of think of it like a giant toolbox. And just like you wouldn't use a hammer to saw a piece of wood, in ABA you have to pick the absolute right tools for each student.
Let's look at a couple of the most common tools in this toolbox. On one hand, you've got something called discrete trial training, or DTT. This is a very structured, one-on-one method. It's fantastic for teaching brand new skills from the ground up, like learning colors or shapes. But, let's be real, we don't live our lives sitting at a table, right? And that's where natural environment teaching, or NET, comes in. NET is all about taking those skills and using them in the real world, out on the playground, in the cafeteria, during a game. The best programs, they use a smart mix of both.
And believe me, the toolbox is deep. For a student like Ethan, who's a really strong visual learner, something like video modeling can be a total game changer. He can actually watch short videos of kids his own age navigating a conversation and then practice those same skills himself. But what if a student is having a really tough time, maybe with some challenging behaviors? That's where a functional behavior assessment, or an FBA, is crucial. This is like being a detective. You're trying to figure out the why behind the behavior. Are they trying to get attention, or are they trying to escape a task that's too hard? Once you know the why, then you can build a plan that actually helps.
Okay, so having the right tools is one thing, but it's not enough. You also need the right team to use them, because when it comes to helping these students succeed, it really does take a village.
So who's on this team? Well, you've got the board-certified behavior analyst, the BCBA. They're kind of like the head coach, designing the whole game plan. Then there's the registered behavior technician, or RBT, who's on the field every single day, working directly with the student. Of course, you have the special ed teacher, making sure everything lines up with the student's academic goals. And you'll often have other specialists, like an occupational or a speech therapist. When this team is in sync, like they were for Marcus, the results can be just incredible. But when that collaboration breaks down, like it did for Aaliyah, the consequences can be, well, they can be devastating.
All right, so with all these people and all these tools, how do we know if any of it is actually working? This is where ABA gets really powerful. It's all about the data, because at the end of the day, the numbers tell the story.
And this isn't just about best practices, it's actually the law.
A few years back, the Supreme Court made a landmark ruling that a student's program has to be appropriately ambitious. What does that mean? Well, think of it this way. If a toddler is just learning to walk, you wouldn't expect them to run a marathon next week, right? But you would expect them to take a few more steps. That's appropriately ambitious. It's about setting challenging but achievable goals. And you have to have proof, you have to have data that shows you're actually making progress toward them.
And this is what that proof looks like. This chart shows Marcus's progress using his communication device to ask for things he wants. That's what manding means. Look at that jump. He went from making requests about 18% of the time to 40% of the time in just a few months. That isn't just a number on a graph. That's a life-changing leap in his ability to connect with the world around him. This is what success looks like in the data.
Now, let's look at Aaliyah's data for the exact same skill. See that? Her progress isn't just flat. It's actually trending down. This is a massive red flag. It's the data screaming that the program is not working. And when you see data like this, you have an absolute responsibility to change something. You can't just keep doing the same thing and hope for a different result.
You know, it's so easy to get lost in the charts and the acronyms. But we have to remember, at its core, ABA isn't about numbers, it's about people. It's about helping individuals unlock their own potential.
So what have we really learned here today? What does good ABA actually look like? Well, first, it is always individualized, no cookie-cutter programs. Second, its goal is always to build real skills that increase a person's independence and quality of life. Third, it's a team sport. It takes a whole team and the family working together. Fourth, it is precise and driven by data. And finally, and this might be the most important one, it has to be flexible. It changes when the data shows it isn't working.
When you get right down to it, ABA is just a set of tools. And like any tool, it's only as good as the person using it. That's why this quote just hits so hard. Every child is one caring adult away from a different story. For Marcus, that different story is about finding his voice. For Aaliyah, it's about getting the fresh start she deserves. And for Ethan, it's about finally learning how to connect with his peers. And that right there is the real power of this framework, the power to help change a child's story for the better.